battled by its colony since the American Revolution. Ho's leadership and tenacity contributed greatly to the victory, as did the aid of a powerful new ally, the Red Chinese. Ho tried to play down the Chinese Communist support. He feared that this alliance would drag Vietnam into the Cold War.
And this would mean, therefore, that Vietnamese independence would not be a local question between Viet Minh and the French, but would be now an international question between the two superpowers.
Despite the victory at Dien Bien Phu, Vietnam's fate would ultimately be decided at a peace conference in Geneva. Both the Soviet Union and Red China urged Ho to accept the terms of the Geneva Peace Agreement, which divided the country in half at the 17th parallel. It took all of Ho's political skill to get his colleagues to accept the compromise. After 1954, Ho and the Communists concentrated on building a socialist state in the North. They implemented a land reform program modeled after the one created by Mao in China.
And it was a very brutal program. Lots of landowners were executed. It was very corrupt in many cases. The story is that Ho Chi Minh actually realized this thing had gotten out of hand and apologized for it, but of course it was too late. These people had been killed.
The North did not have the only repressive government in Indochina. The U.S. helped install an anti-communist dictator in the South named Ngo Dinh Diem. Diem was not popular with his countrymen. In the Geneva Peace Treaty, Ho had been promised an end to foreign intervention and nationwide elections, which he most certainly would have won. Diem and his U.S. backers did not allow the elections to take place. By 1960, an anti-Diem resistance movement engulfed the South in a guerrilla war. The more the North supported the guerrillas, or Viet Cong, the more the U.S. intervened to counter the spread of communism. Just as Ho had feared, Vietnam had become the key battlefield of the Cold War.
We had this idiotic idea that communism was a monolith, that all communists were the same, and Ho was part of that monolith. But there's a lot of evidence that he wasn't. If only we had come to the point where we'd say, okay, he's a communist, but he's our communist, you know?
By 1966, the Vietnam War was in full swing. By now, Ho was 76 years old and probably not involved in the day-to-day conduct of the war. But he was still the prime source of inspiration to the Vietnamese people to fight on, no matter the cost. Ho Chi Minh died on September 2nd, 1969, at the age of 79. Though it would be almost 6 more years before the final Vietnamese victory, most of Ho's countrymen believed that he was the one most responsible for the liberation and unification of Vietnam. Today, Ho Chi Minh's legacy is as controversial and complex as the man himself.
There is, on the one hand, the image of Ho Chi Minh as the patriot, the leader of his country's struggle for national liberation, the man of simple tastes, a man who is almost more a Confucian than he is a Marxist or a Leninist. The other image of Ho Chi Minh is as an international communist agent, the head of a repressive regime which carried out policies deeply repugnant to many Vietnamese.
I think you got to deal with the dual character of this man. At the same time that you have this image of the kindly, wispy, emaciated, frail Ho Chi Minh, you got to remember underneath that is a really tough figure, absolutely dedicated, absolutely relentless.
The ends were always more important than the means to Ho Chi Minh. But some critics believe that the communist economic and political system that he left behind was too high a price for independence and unification.
Ho Chi Minh said in 1945, they would like to have Vietnam independence, freedom, and happiness. And from the three slogans, what is left right now? Independence, yes, but what does it mean without having freedom and happiness?
There's no doubt that the communists under Ho often brutally eliminated their political opponents. But Ho's role in this is not clear.
Ho was the leader at the time, and errors did take place, so he should take some of the blame. I think he was a very driven man, a man driven by the cause that he believed in.
As a young man, Ho dreamed of changing the lives of the Vietnamese people, but he probably never dreamed how much he would also change the United States.
Ho Chi Minh hands the United States the first defeat in its history, in the longest war of its history. And in that respect, he should teach us a lesson, which is you don't get involved in wars in these places when you're up against enemies that are intensely, passionately nationalistic and are prepared to make these limitless sacrifices to win.
Recent estimates of Vietnamese casualties since 1946 are placed at over 3,500,000 dead. This staggering number is a reflection of the steely determination of Ho Chi Minh and the Vietnamese people.
Ho Chi Minh's enduring legacy in terms of his image and the way he is seen around the world, I think probably he's remembered perhaps more than anything else as the leader of probably the most successful movement for national liberation that we've seen in our century.
Ho Chi Minh accomplished an incredible feat in helping to free his country and unite it despite the opposition of France and the United States. This achievement required the efforts of a man who was part Lenin, part Gandhi, part Confucius, and all Vietnamese.